Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Harrison's Garage. I'm Harrison, and today we're going to be installing some auxiliary backup lights on the Ram. As far as the type of light I've selected, I've done the Baja design Squadron. Most sort of auxiliary lights I've seen are the two gang, if you will, essentially two LEDs. I don't really like the look. I think they just look a little bit small, especially on the back of the dually bumper. I want to go a little bit bigger. I feel like sort of proportion wise it'll look a little more at home on the truck. There's going to be a little bit sort of hand forging involved in order to get the mounting plates to fit, but I think we can get it done. I've had a look, I've taken a look, the plates themselves, they are aluminum, so they're going to lend themselves to be fairly malleable, but we'll get into that in a minute. First, I'll bring you in close and show you exactly what comes with the lights that I've selected, and then kind of jump into what we're going to be doing to get the holes cut out in the bumper. That's right, I did say holes in the bumper. We're going to be doing that, and then going into what will be needed for the mounting plates. Okay, we're looking at the lights now. Now, I did order two lights, one for each side of the license plate. This is one of the lights. This is the Squadron. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Full disclosure, I've already opened this up, looked at it. This is the mounting plate. I've been playing around with this, trying to figure out where I want to mount everything, and this is just a good way to figure that out. But essentially you get 4 screws like so. They will attach the mounting plate to the Squadron light. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've chosen the driving combo light spread here. And I've also already tested this light out at night, just directing a couple of leads straight to the battery and seeing how bright it is, and I was very pleased with the throw. Essentially going to be having 2 headlights on the back of the bumper hooked up to an auxiliary switch on the Switchpro. I am not going to be connecting these to the reverse trigger, so I'm not going to have these come on when I put the truck in reverse. I want to avoid any situation where if maybe I have to back up on the road, these don't just automatically come on, because it will be too bright to go in reverse legally on the road. That's just why I'm not doing that. This is more for off-road, more for private driveways, dark areas that I find myself in, and this will help tremendously. So put these aside, open up the rest of this. Come in here, this is all stuff that you get when you order the light from Baja Designs. Here's your mounting hardware, additional mounting hardware, and instructions, as well as the template, along with a Baja Designs decal sticker. So first thing we're going to look at here is the hardware, and you'll notice I've got black screws and a plain black bezel. The way these come, you get a bezel that's got this sort of Baja Designs laser etching. When I first got this light, wasn't pleased with sort of some of the finishing edges on it. There was scrapes and such along the side, and I wasn't super thrilled with it. So I asked them to send me another set, and because of the way my truck is configured, it's all black. They said no problem, and they sent it over without any etching, so it's going to be a cleaner look on the bumper. I've got 2 of these set aside extra, and then I went to Ace and got some black screws simply because I didn't want to have silver screws visible. I did mention there's going to be some hand forging involved on this plate, and I've tested it out with this extra plate already. You can see it's got a little bit of a bend in here. Now, this sort of, forging of the plate is not necessary if you're going to do a sort of traditional 2-gang style backup light. It's not tall enough, but because this light plate is so much taller than a typical 2-gang, we need to form it to the contour of the bumper in order for it to fit properly. The other thing that comes in this kit are, 2 more bags. One is hardware and one is a connection. Now, this hardware is necessary to mount the plate to the bumper. You'll see you've got some nylock nuts in here, washers, some longer bolts, no big deal, nothing fancy. This is essentially everything you need to create your own connection, watertight connection to the light. It comes with the receiving version of this. Now, I don't know if I'm going to bother creating a connection like that and then plugging it in, because I am not going to be unplugging these lights ever. They are bolted to the truck. I am more inclined to just chop this off and then connect my leads together that way. It'll be a lot faster than having to assemble this and then plug it in. It'll be, I think, more waterproof. So if you want to, you have everything you need to create your own connection. I am probably going to opt not to. Next thing we're going to do is take a look at what we're going to do to get these lights mounted in the bumper. This is for the flush mounting Squadron. What we'll need to do is essentially cut this out and tape it up on the back of the bumper, trace it out. And what I need to do in terms of cutting the hole in the steel is drill holes in the four corners, and then essentially get those holes big enough for my jigsaw blade to go through. I've done a test on actually this piece of steel here. This is just a piece of steel plate. It's a little bit thicker than my bumper, and I used a fine steel cutting jigsaw blade, and it ate through it pretty quickly. The only thing it doesn't do well is turn. It goes straight very easily. So I'm going to have to try and get these holes cut as best I can here. But what I will do is, I think minimum I need 3/8 to fit the thickness of this blade through it. I'll probably start with a bigger hole. A bigger hole will mean less radiusing on the jigsaw blade and more just letting the drill do the work. So I'll probably end up using a bigger hole here. But what I'll end up doing is, say if I use a 1/2 inch hole, I'll just get a 1/4 inch radius measured, punch it with the punch, probably somewhere about here. Drill in first with a pilot bit, and then follow it through with a step bit and some WD-40, just drilling on a low speed, and eventually work the hole kind of to about this size, maybe this size. But again, first thing you want to do is measure and measure and measure again, because you do not want to have this hole that you cut out be too big, because then you won't be able to install this and you'll be able to see issues on your bumper. So that's enough talking. We're going to go ahead, run over to the truck. I'll set you up on the tripod and we'll get things measured out. Okay, down by the truck on the left side of the bumper, and before we can do any actual drilling, I wanted to show you why I need to do a little bit of shaping on this bezel here. This is the unbent flat bezel as it's received. Now the bumper has a bit of a contour. I'm going to try and highlight up near the top here, and you'll see a bit of a wiggle, and you get the same thing at the bottom. So we need to put a sort of a bend or a contour at the middle of this guy, and get this sort of snugged up nice and flush. Now I've done a test sort of shaping with the bezel that came with this that I wasn't a fan of in terms of the way it was finished, and you'll see I've got quite a bit of a curve in it, and line this up kind of to where I want it height wise, and it doesn't rock at all. Sort of like right there, it's perfect. I have a little bit of rubber gasket that I'm going to be using to sandwich the plate in between the bumper, just to protect it from scratching, and it will not rock at all. So I'm going to go ahead and get these other two plates bent to shape, and then we can start taping up the template and getting the holes drilled. Okay, so the way I found that was best to contour this plate, it is aluminum, so it's pretty easy to mold, it's fairly malleable, is to put it in the vise in between a sort of a microfiber cloth. Make sure you don't mar up any of the finish. Get it put in there pretty perpendicular to the vise jaws. Really clamp down on it and just hit it with a dead blow until you're happy. There's nothing special here. Just keep doing it until you walk it over the truck and it fits well. So here we go. Take a look at it, compare it to the other one. Pretty good. I think let's go ahead and test fit this and come back with you to do the other. Okay, I know I said I'd meet back up with you when I was ready to drill holes, but I got it bent, and I just wanted to show you how easy it is to get this bent so it no longer rolls or pivots on the shape of the bumper here. But I'm trying to flex it here with both hands, and is perfectly sort of contoured to the bumper. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one of these. And then if you're wondering in the comments, before you put anything down there, I did already test mounting the light to this bent bezel, and it works just fine. So quite happy with how it looks on the workbench. Gonna go ahead, get the other one bent, and then start laying out the drill holes. Okay, so I have the template traced out on the tape. The next thing I want to do is go through, punch the centers for the drill holes. And I'm going to be doing that with this center punch. And before I hit that point of no return here, I'm just going to double check my measurements one last time. And on the final corner, that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and make my punches into the bumper here. So this is going to be the first of many sort of you can't turn back moments today. Okay, and that's about all we'll need this paper template for. Go ahead and take that off. Now you can see where we need to cut. We're going to cut on the inside of the Sharpie line, and we're going to be drilling in those 4 locations, starting with the step bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other side of the truck to this point and bring you back when I'm ready to start drilling. Okay, so I'm going to start drilling now. I've got my 5/64 pilot bit, and I'm just going to use a little WD-40 to keep the bits from overheating. Nothing to it really now, just except to start. So here we go. Okay, I've got one of the 4 holes drilled for this light. I'm gonna do the other 7 off camera. I think maybe now you can see why I decided to make the hole this large. It saves me from having to radius that with the jigsaw. I can just come straight to here, and that's about it. Maybe clean it up with a file. So I'm gonna do the other 7 and then meet back up with you when I got 2 ginormous holes in my bumper. Okay, I've gotten the 4 holes drilled on this side and on the other side of the truck. This is honestly the most nerve-wracking part for me, and that is taking a jigsaw to it. I've taken steps to try and minimize any kind of paint, scrapes, or scratches anywhere. I've got 2 layers of masking tape there and masking tape here. I'm going to be checking pretty frequently, trying to clear out any shavings that might catch and drag along here. I've got a new jigsaw blade. It's a metal cutting blade. Like I said, I've already tested it out on sheet metal that is slightly thicker than this, so I should be okay getting through it pretty easily. I just want to make sure I stay pretty close to these lines. So here we go. Okay guys, I am on the left side of the bumper. I have the hole cut out, so you can see. And the light just kind of placed in there. I had to go back and do a little bit of clearancing. The pattern was a little bit snug to the actual size of the light. If you're doing this, you probably want to go around the outside of your lines and not on them or inside them. Anyway, what I wanted to show you now was the sort of the snug fit that, I guess, shaping this plate has against the bumper. The blue tape really sets it off nicely. You can kind of see there it fits very, very well. Now, so what I'm going to do next is line this up and center punch holes and then drill them for the mounting screws here, bottom right, bottom left, and then top left there. And that'll get this set in place. Once we have it drilled, before I get this light mounted, what I want to go do is cut some rubber gasket material roughly to size to sandwich in between this plate and this bumper, so it's not aluminum on painted steel. I just don't want it to scratch and grind, so go the extra mile and do that, and I think it'll be a nicer fit and finish here. So I'm going to set you up, get these holes marked, pinned, and drilled. I'll do that on time lapse and come back with you when it's time to cut out that rubber gasket material. Okay, earlier I mentioned that I was going to try and make some kind of a gasket for this to go in between the truck bumper and the metal sort of plate on this light mount. And what I did was I decided to use some of this Husky tool drawer liner. It's pretty thin. It's pretty thin. It's a little compressible, and I think will work pretty well for this. I'm not sure if it will work, so we're just gonna kind of run through and see what happens. Open up a section of this, lay it out on here, and I'll probably just take one of these extra plates so I'm not working with this one, and then just try and figure out what the shape is that I need to cut out, because it's going to be roughly the outside perimeter minus the pencil line that I drew on this guy here that you can see in the light. So I need to figure out what that shape is, draw it down here. And I think what I'll do is I'll end up tracing around this outside perimeter. And then once I've got that down, I'll just lay this on top, center it, and then cut it out. So I'm gonna set you up on time lapse and see if we can't make this, this gasket come to fruition. Okay, I have two gaskets made and mounted. They come in here, they're not perfect, but I think they will do the job. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and mount these guys up on the truck. There's nothing, special about it, so I think I will just skip over the how-to on that, because it's just the bolt, the washer, and the nylock nut times 4 per pod. Going into the holes we've already got drilled. So what I'm gonna do is just run these through. It is I believe like a 2.5 mil Allen key and a 930 seconds nylock nut. The washer will go on the bumper side. Obviously this will just be countersunk into the bezel. That should do it. All right guys, I am out here early the next morning. You can see up in here, that is the light pod bolted up, and this is the wire coming off of it. I've chosen to essentially permanently mount it, cutting off the included harness, and I'm just going to make my connections using some heat shrink and some like butt connectors essentially, and get these attached. Now this wire is the wire that I've run ahead of time, and it goes all the way to the front of the truck to the Switchpro. This black wire is going to be a chassis ground. It currently leads nowhere. What I mean by that is it starts here, follows this loom over. This loom has the hot wire in it, but the black wire itself comes out right here. And that's it. I'm going to attach it to the other light here in a moment, but then from there I'm going to run a Positap or T-tap connection from the black wire to a chassis ground anywhere close by, and there is a chassis ground about a foot forward of this, so I'm going to run it there where I've run all my other ground connections. So I've said it before, but I think I'm just going to speed through these connections. I've shown it a lot on the channel. I don't need to show it again. If you see any kind of connection, you'll see them all are fairly straightforward. Okay, I've got the ground wires kind of connected, and I thought I'd take a second just to show you what I've done, because it's a little unusual. So this is the wire coming from the other light pod going to this light pod. But as I was making this connection, I thought instead of doing a second Positap, because they are kind of bulky, I was just going to take this one, run it into a 20 butt connector, 20 AWG butt connector, and run it straight to the pod light here, as well as the actual ground wire for the system. So I got two wires. I got a 20 AWG and a 16 AWG, sorry, a 12 AWG and a 16 AWG going into this 12 AWG butt connector. And then I've got the, I think this is a 14 AWG coming from the other auxiliary pod light into this. So I've got the ground wire for the whole system, ground wire for one pod light, ground wire for the other pod light. So I'm gonna get this all cleaned up and then actually make the ground connection up there here. And once I get that done, I'll be able to wire up the front to the Switchpro, and we'll be able to test these guys out later tonight. Okay, so I've done 2 other accessories before, specifically the train horn and the rock lights. Here's the train horn connection, rock light connection. I didn't film either of those. I think I'll film this one just so I have one film that I can reference and that you guys can all reference. So this is the, I guess the loom of 4 accessory wires that I've pre-run. It comes up to here and drops down below the firewall and runs underneath the side of the truck. This is the wire that I'll be tapping into. I had this pre-labeled for the backup lights. So get that sticker off of there. First thing I'm gonna do is just strip this back. It's a 12 gauge. Strip it back to about here. Not need to strip off too much. Next thing we're gonna go ahead and do is slide over a red heat shrink and just let that drop down below for now. And then come back over top with a butt connector and then heat shrink this guy down. So bright you can't actually see the flame, but I can hear it. So, okay, so that's kind of secured the heat shrink to the wire. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and prep the wire on the Switchpro end. And this guy is smaller gauge, but I think it's about 14 or 16. What we're going to do next is just butt connect this guy in. So I'm going to go ahead and heat shrink this other end. Now what I'm doing is just going over and melting the solder in the middle of this heat shrink. And the last step here is just to slide the red heat shrink over top to waterproof and conceal the connection. All right guys, I last left off with you earlier in the day when I was finishing up the wiring under the hood and thought I'd come back at night to show you the lights. Now before I turn them on, I wanted to mention I did spend some time today replacing all of these screws with black ones instead of the chrome, just to match the sort of black on black look of the truck, and it does work quite well. I may end up smoking these out a little bit just to bring that high kind of shine look down a little, blend it in with the bumper a little bit more. Not sure, but they are certainly bright. I'd say they're probably brighter than a lot of headlights on some older vehicles. So, okay, coming in here, we're gonna go ahead and click on the reverse lights there. See that there? Click them on, and you can already see them. They do look a lot like headlights. And this is, I guess, part of the reason why I wanted to turn the truck around and park it like this is just to show you the throw and clarity of these lights. And they are a driving combo, sort of straight ahead as well as spread of the lights. And I wanted the spread just to be able to see kind of out wide a little bit and see it in the rear view mirrors and the side view mirrors. So if we come around and take a look at these lights from the street, that's generally how bright they are. Very, very bright. Obviously why I didn't want to have it hooked up to my reverse trigger. I didn't want these coming on every time I backed up. It's just too much. But it's excellent for really dark spaces, especially if you're not on the street. So come back up in here. If you're looking to, say, back up. So show you when I'm backing up, this is basically what it looks like. There's the side view mirror, and I'm using typically the bottom of the 2 mirrors, and you can barely see it there. If I click on the lights here now, it makes backing up very, very easy if it's a dark area and there's no street lights. So you can see just how improved visibility is here. Again, same deal on driver's side, you can't see anything, and then bam, there's a tire, the outline on the fender. The other thing I wanted to test was how do the reverse cameras handle the light, because right now I've got the light off and the camera is quite bright, so I wanted to see how well the camera, the reverse camera on the screen would adjust. So if we put this on, it's brighter, but then the camera itself adjusts and it's no longer bright or washed out. I just have a lot more visibility sort of up at the far end of the screen there, out in the street where it's throwing a lot more light a lot farther. It doesn't feel washed out, it doesn't feel difficult to use, so I'm really happy about that, and pretty much how everything turned out here. Alright guys, I hope you found that video helpful. If you, like me, found yourself wanting a little bit more light backing up, a little bit more throw, a little bit more width, these Baja design lights were perfect. They matched the sort of white color perfectly. I'm really pleased with their throw, the quality of the light, even bending the plate to get them to fit in the bumper. All turned out really, really nicely. I couldn't have asked for more. Wiring it up, again, very straightforward. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.